Hello, and welcome back to our mindfulness series focused on ants, automatic negative thoughts. I'm glad you are back here today to continue with this series. And I would first like to say, before I say welcome to 2021, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Penny Meckley Porter. I'm the founder of Thrive Therapy Space here in Erie, PA. And first, I want to acknowledge the difficulty of 2020. I'd like to acknowledge perhaps anything that you went through in 2020. So I think it was a difficult year for all of us, and many people experienced great loss. So perhaps their own health failed, perhaps they had loss of loved ones. Some of us have struggled more with fears of loss and fears of sickness, and so that's been difficult. Of course, some people lost jobs. Life was extra difficult for educators, essential workers, healthcare workers. So I just want to acknowledge the difficulty of that for everyone who was affected. I also want to acknowledge that even for those who perhaps kept their job or perhaps did not have those other kinds of losses, there was still a sense of loss for all of us last year because the year was very difficult, and we all lost a sense of kind of ease and freedom and being able to gather and being able to hug people. And so there really was a difficulty with all of that, and I just want to acknowledge the difficulty of last year and the various losses. We also lost being able to see people smile, right? So I just want to acknowledge that and also say, if at the end of 2020 you found yourself, and maybe even now, found yourself or find yourself feeling more exhausted, more overwhelmed, or irritated, sad, anxious, I'd like to say, of course, it's no wonder. It's been difficult. I want to encourage you to be gentle with yourself and to take care of yourself, as in nurturing yourself, helping your own self feel okay. But I also want to acknowledge that perhaps there are some good things that are going to come out of 2020. Some of them maybe we haven't recognized yet. Some of them could be that we all enjoy gathering more once we're able to do that. And we all really recognize the value and have such gratitude for hugs. I do always want to be positive and look for the good. Perhaps more people will be working from home long term. Perhaps businesses will shift and change long term. Perhaps we'll all be more aware of racial inequalities long term. So I am hopeful that there can be some positive that comes out of the difficulty of 2020. Also, I would like to welcome you to 2021 and again acknowledge the difficulty that we're still in. COVID deaths are at their highest right now in our country. There's been obviously political difficulty. The Capitol was breached just a few days ago. So, but as an optimist, I do want to look forward to any kind of healing that can happen and increased awareness of ourselves as human beings and of our country, that we can be moving in a new direction, in a better direction. Anyway, back to our series on ants. So as you may remember, you may know, this one is number 6. It's called Judging Ourselves and Others, Judging Yourself and Others. The last one was Should Statements and Guilt. So we got through that one, and hopefully you've been taking some time to notice how you should yourself, quite possibly, quite probably. You use the word should with yourself and others. And this one is kind of related. So all of these 9 ants topics, there really is an overlap. It's not like one is judging self and others, and another is next week's is called mind reading and fortune telling. And some of the others that we talked about Right. So we've just been through a bunch of them, right? Automatic negative thoughts. And so it's emotional reasoning was number 4. It's not like they're all separate things that we're talking about. We're just talking about different areas of automatic negative thoughts. And if you suspect that there is an overlap between them, you're right. Yeah. Because today we're going to be talking about judging, and how is judging really very different than shoulding ourselves? I don't know. It's a different way of talking about it, and there's certainly an overlap with shoulding ourselves, which we talked about last time. So, judging self and others. Well, with all of these series, this whole series on ants, we want to be coming to ourselves with a gentle curiosity. Just see if we can be noticing how we are doing these things, because we all do it. We don't have to be judging ourselves for it, but we all do these cognitive distortions. So this one, judging self and others, I would like to say, again, it's universal. And we may not even realize how much we judge ourselves and others. And that's why we're talking about it today. So sometimes people feel like if I talk to people about, well, let's try not to judge ourselves so harshly, and maybe we don't need to judge ourselves at all. Perhaps we can come with a gentleness to ourselves. Like if there's someone in your life who was very gentle with you, kind with you. It could have been a teacher, it could have been a grandparent, it could have been a boss that you had when at some point in your life, and you made a mistake. So thinking back to a time where you made a mistake, but that somebody responded to you with like a kindness and a gentleness. If you can kind of think of a time like that, it'd be good to think of something like that right now. And maybe even contrasting that with a time in your life where you made a mistake and someone basically made you feel worse. They shamed you in some way. They said you shouldn't have done that, you should have done better. And so they really kind of made you feel even worse than you'd already felt. Because when we make mistakes, we all feel bad about it. Right? And so we're looking today in particular at the person who didn't judge you and who responded with kindness and forgiveness and said, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that happened. And yeah, I do expect you to do better next time. But yeah, okay, let's just move on. We don't need to shame you about it. We can use a gentleness with you. We can be kind still. And so that's really what we're focused on. Sometimes when I talk to people about this sense of judging themselves, they are afraid if they don't judge themselves, that then they will somehow not continue to perform, and that somehow they'll become a couch potato and not have any standards for themselves. So we're not talking about dropping your standards. We're talking about when you don't meet your standards, having a gentleness with yourself and saying, oh, I didn't do that. And using your mindfulness skills, because you might be like, oh, and I feel disappointed in myself. And yeah, I recognize that sense of frustration. And oh, I feel embarrassed also that I didn't do well with this thing. And I'm afraid other people will notice and be judging me. And so then I judge myself like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe I did that. That was bad. I shouldn't have done that. But if instead of that approach, we come with a more gentle approach, it actually helps us to be healthier. It helps our mind to be healthier. It helps our body to be healthier. So I would like to do a meditation today, as we always do, a mindfulness exercise combined with a meditation. So I'd like you now to sit comfortably in your chair, feet flat on the floor, closing your eyes if that's comfortable, and bringing your awareness to your breath. Noticing your chest cavity expanding and contracting with each breath. Perhaps feeling your shoulders moving up and down with each breath. Maybe bringing your awareness to your nose and either feeling or hearing the breath within each inhale and each exhale. Bringing your awareness to your breath. If you get distracted by your thoughts, it's okay. Bringing your awareness right back to your breath. I'd like you to feel your feet on the floor, just noticing. Bring your awareness to your feet on the floor or wherever they are. It helps with grounding. Being aware of your body touching your chair or couch, and that the chair or couch is touching the ground, the floor beneath you, and the floor is connected somewhere to the earth. Now I'd like you to bring your awareness to a time recently where you judged yourself. A time where you made a mistake and you judged yourself. Let yourself feel some of those emotions that you were feeling. If you can have an openness right now to all of the emotions that you were feeling. Perhaps the judgment, sadness or disappointment in self. Perhaps a sense of the consequences of your mistake. Perhaps a sense of embarrassment, worry that other people will notice. And anything you're thinking of that I haven't mentioned. It was probably difficult, perhaps overwhelming, this experience. I'd like you to continue, be sure you're breathing nice and deep. Because sometimes when we're stressed out, we have constricted breathing. So keep breathing as you are aware of this recent event where you were judging yourself. Now I'd like you to imagine someone who in your lifetime was gentle with you. So it could be someone you know who was gentle with you. Or it could be kind of a universal idea of a kind grandparent. Universal idea of a kind person. Someone who's kind and nurturing and warm. And imagine that kind person embracing you if that's comfortable, putting their arm around you. And saying, hey, I'm sorry that happened. I'm sorry about that mistake. But I don't want you to be hard on yourself. I want you to acknowledge the mistake, learn from it, but there's no reason for you to beat yourself up. I'd like you to be kind to yourself. You are a good person. I can see you trying every day. I know that you're struggling with this mistake, and you tend to be judging yourself. But I'd like you to be kind to yourself. I'd like you to show yourself grace. You deserve grace, as does everyone. I'd like you to to use positive language with yourself. I acknowledge this mistake, and I acknowledge that others make mistakes also. I know that I can learn from this. And I choose to move towards forgiveness of myself and others. Forgiveness is a balm to the soul. And I would like to forgive myself. In this moment or in the future. Sometimes we're not ready for that. And we want to respect wherever you are. So again, coming back to this image of this person who's been kind to you. Or someone who you see as kind. And we're having you incorporate their kindness and gentleness towards yourself, towards you, so that you can bring in that same kindness and gentleness towards yourself. Keeping with your breath, noticing any resistance you might have to this kindness and gentleness. There may be resistance. It's not okay that I made that mistake. I shouldn't be kind to myself. No one else would be kind to me. So there's resistance to being kind and gentle to yourself. You can notice that. And move towards the kindness and gentleness anyway. Coming back to your breath. Again, noticing the inhale and the exhale, wherever you want to notice it, in your body, at your nose. Let's do a couple of breath exercises. With your next inhale, I'd like you to inhale a little farther than usual. With your next exhale, also exhale a little farther than usual. And do that for 2 or 3 breaths. You want to be comfortable, but also just taking an extra deep breath, extra deep exhale. Then getting back to your normal breath without changing it, without doing anything. Just noticing your breath, being present with your breath. Again, feeling your body against the chair, your feet on the ground. And whenever you're ready, opening your eyes. Thank you for doing that exercise with me. And I wonder if you can notice in your body, maybe even, how it feels different when you use that kind of really judgmental tone with yourself. A harsher judgmental tone, how it feels in your body. Versus when you are able to use a gentler tone, a more forgiving tone, a kinder approach, and how that felt. And if you felt resistance to being kinder and gentler with yourself. And of course, part of the talk today, the title was about judging self and others. But we really focused today on judging self. The feeling in the body of judging self and judging others, it's actually pretty similar, I think, for most of us. And most of us, if not all of us, judge ourselves at least as harshly as we judge others. And as we learn to judge ourselves less, it helps us to judge others less. They end up completely connected, or very connected, largely connected. Judgment of self and judgment of others. So I'd like to encourage you in this next week to be noticing when you are judging yourself and when you are judging others. Noticing how it feels in your brain, noticing the thoughts that go along with that, noticing perhaps the feelings in your body that go along with that. I guess I meant kind of location in your body, because with judgment, maybe noticing the location, how it feels in your body, but complementarily noticing the other emotions that come along with that judgment. So for me, judgment of self. I did something recently that I was helping a friend with his medication, and I didn't do something right. And I felt such a sense of disappointment in myself, fear of what might happen. for the other person that I care deeply about. There's so many other emotions involved, a sense of even like embarrassment that I would not handle the medication properly. There are so many accompanying emotions. So in the next week, when you're embarrassed, judging yourself either in the moment or later, see if you can kind of be noticing what else was going on for you and coming at it with a kindness and gentleness. Next week, our 7th automatic negative thought that we'll be looking at is called mind reading and fortune telling. And I look forward to having you back here with me next week. And I do want to say thank you to the Jefferson Educational Society for hosting this program. See you next week.